This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
Come meet me at the Musial with Alan and Daniel. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. Everyone come gather round, listen to your favorite sound. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. We'll talk the games and all the rest, about the team that we love best. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. We're gonna talk about the Cardinals all night long.
Good morning. Welcome into another edition of Meet Me at Musial. I'm your host, Daniel Shoptaw at C70. With me, as always, Alan Medlock, A Medlock1 on the Twitters. We're coming to you Friday morning. And since the last time we talked to you, absolutely nothing has happened. Well, at least not for the Cardinals. The All-Star game break has come and is about to be gone, as the Cardinals will pick up tonight against the Diamondbacks. But Alan, what's it been like for this last few days to have a little bit of a break from baseball?
Boring.
There you go.
Well, here's the thing. You got to see it from my vantage point here. I mean, we go high school ball, 40 games, 1st of May. Late May, you start summer league. Weather permitting, you go to late June. So these are the days that you could sit back and watch a lot of Cardinals games and be happy about it. And it's just a little bit boring. Now, I have taken care of some family stuff, which was nice and all those things. So I shouldn't completely say that. But, a lot of our summer calendar is based around what the Cardinals are doing. And, the break can be a little bit boring. I mean, I really enjoy the festivities. I'm a home run derby guy. I like the All-Star game, those things I enjoy, and sometimes that that the players need a break, and potentially the fans do after what you go through all year. But yeah, it gets a little monotonous after a couple of days. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they do, and I still don't. I think there's a real argument to be made. And I think maybe I can't remember if we talked about this. I was on talking about birds this week. So I think there's some things that I might have said there and I can't remember if we said it there or on our show with David on Sunday.
Sure.
But it doesn't make any sense not to have the Futures game on Wednesday, does it?
I'm on the soapbox about that one. It just drives me nuts that gets buried.
Yeah. And more so, it used to be, it was on Sunday afternoon. It is kind of late afternoon. So it's kind of like after all the games were going, most games were done, you're really kind of heading into the break. But now that they've got the draft and they've pushed it to a Saturday, it's hardly anybody ever sees anything about it.
Yeah, it's it stinks because you have those guys that, like we talked about on Sunday, it's one of those, you have guys that are closer now than they've ever been. And that gap is close now between college top prospect, big league player, and they don't showcase it enough. And it's one of those to where, as much as they're trying to showcase the oddity and the entertainment value of the All-Star game and the home run derby, they just bury what could be a pretty good segment of guys that are coming close by playing it on the afternoon of the Wednesday, even if it is a travel situation where, contractually they want to get out of town or whatnot. I would think that if you made the roster, you would be pretty happy with that, knowing that you're probably pretty close and you could do a Wednesday afternoon type situation, which makes a lot of sense to me. It's tough to explain, honestly, with a straight face, other than, what financial ramifications there are.
Yeah. You're right. You're talking, 40, 50 players, maybe a little bit more than that. But you know, yeah, you play it on a Wednesday afternoon, even if you like play it on a Wednesday afternoon and then play it on MLB Network that evening so people can see
Yeah.
it. Um, but and then you've got the rest of Wednesday, all day Thursday to travel to wherever your team is going to be at. Because it looks like most of the minor leagues pick up tomorrow or today as well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I mean, again, you're right. It's not like the All-Star game where there are players that they want the break more than they want to be an all-star. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
which is fine. I understand that. No, I'm not casting judgment, but I don't think there's anybody I've ever heard of that gets selected to go to the futures game and turns it down.
No.
Right. That is a big deal. And I imagine there's a financial aspect to it that these are guys that aren't getting the millions of dollars yet, although some of them have signed nice contracts, as we can talk about. Um, but still, there is still that financial component. There's still that, wanting to make your name for yourself, all that. And so, yeah, I think if they played that on a Wednesday, then, a Wednesday afternoon, that would be great. And then they would space it out a little bit more. And maybe at some point in time, they'll get to that. Because, yeah, it feels like they cram all this stuff into, um, and into all this. They could even played it. I mean, they could have even played it Monday afternoon. Um, Although I guess there's a lot of festivities going on, but it just seems like it's really weird because it doesn't feel like it's part of the All-Star activities when it's on a Saturday afternoon when there's a whole lot of things going on.
Oh yeah, it gets for. Yeah, I mean, there's an element of fans that don't follow it as closely as we do that are still baseball fans that'll be like, I didn't know there was a futures game on Saturday. That happens.
Yeah.
And you're just like, yeah, it's not. It gets buried quite often, and it's kind of embarrassing how they promote it or lack
Yeah.
thereof.
Yeah. But I mean, that's not the only thing about the whole All-Star
Sure.
experience that goes against the grain, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, I assume you watched Home Run Derby and All-Star Game. What did you think about it?
I mean, I enjoy it. The I like the home run derby, how it has how it's kind of evolved, and how they've made it that time limit, because if you remember back, they
Mhm.
were always fun, but boy, they were long.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was really tough to stay locked in on those. Now how they've had the time rounds, and I mean, this was a fun one, and as far as I mean, we all knew who they were, and the diehards knew who they were, but it wasn't a vast list of MLB stars that did it.
Mhm.
That's you didn't have your Alonso in it, you didn't have your Schwarber in it, you didn't have past champions, and you have Judge. Those guys, didn't participate. And one of those things where you automatically want to think, well, this was just boring, potentially. But I mean, it was still exciting, and I enjoyed it. And you had a guy there that was. It also brings a light of some of the dudes that we never see. The Rookers,
Mhm.
some of the West Coast players that you don't see. It's fun to have them in the spotlight a little bit. But no, it was fun to watch. I can't remember the last time the leader in home run, and it may have been last year. I don't know. The league leader in home runs actually wins the Derby. I was thinking
Yeah.
about that because it's usually one of those that they're a little bit skittish to even be involved in it, because historically you don't have the best second portion of the season really.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was kind of exciting, and he seems like a good dude. And you have the family affair of dad pitching to little brother catching to big brother
Yeah.
hitting. I mean, it was a really cool environment.
That's true, and I think the home run derby has become a very fun thing. Like you said, when we were growing up, it was not only did they wear out, but I mean, the go long, but they wore out, right? I mean, McGuire, if
Yeah,
I remember right, there was one semifinal where he hit like 40 homers. And then when it came to the final, he only hit like two because and so they've kind of adjusted and they've tinkered and tried to do a lot of things. And the timed round may be the best way to do it to make sure that batters swing, but also that they don't up there forever. Um, and then you get to see personalities and you get to see
yeah,
interviews and all that kind of stuff, and that is fun. I just the All-Star game, and again, I'm going to preface I didn't get to watch either one of these this year, I watched the swing off the day after. I just, man, it has gotten so far away from an actual baseball game um, that it disturbs me a little bit, because I do think there are times where people say, "Oh, this works here. Let's take it into real baseball," and then it becomes not real baseball anymore.
Sure, sure. I mean, and that's I can understand that angle. To me, sell the entertainment value of it.
Mm.
You know what I mean? That's um, I do think there's some common ground that they're going to have to find as far as pitcher usage and things like that. Like you and I had talked about, I'm okay with the swing off to win it though. I thought, and it was really cool to watch. And the best part was that both rosters were out to watch.
Yeah.
That was pretty interesting. You know, they were right along with the fans, but the whole way. That was actually really really cool to watch. I did think about that though. I was like, as much as they're trying to shorten games, I do wonder if this is ever a reality that hey, you know, soccer does it, hockey does it. You know, is this what we're getting ready to turn into? But you know, these guys can essentially hit a ball 500 feet off a BP pitcher whenever they want. So I don't know if that's necessarily ever going to be the reality. But I enjoyed it, and one of the reasons that I enjoyed it is the National League put out two guys that had won it before, and
Yeah.
historically are just mashers. You know, and it's one of those, and I was like, and it was funny because Schwarber made the comment. He goes, "My whole goal is to keep up and let Alonso win it." You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then, you know, Schwarber's good at those things and goes out and makes a show of it. It was really, that part was really cool. I enjoyed it. I understand baseball is just it's in a weird boat, you know, and I've said, you know, the kids the kids on my roster were talking about it and they enjoy it and they were talking about it. And my soapbox issue was, of course, the futures game. I said, the guys that we're trying to promote coming up, they get buried in the lead on this one. I said a few changes that I would make to the All-Star game, and that's what I said. First thing was move it to more of a slot where people can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Two, I think you may have to start depending on. I don't have an issue with the AL NL portion of this,
Mm-hmm.
but interleague has eaten up some of the allure, and I always wonder if a one-off year may be the U.S. versus the world type situation. That would be kind of cool, honestly. I don't know if it will ever get to that. My bold take is take 2 weeks off and do the World Baseball Classic every 4 years. But just due to injury risk and stuff like that, it's never going to happen. Which means the World Baseball Classic, well, while fun, is never going to be played at the highest level, you know, so to speak. That's why I say that for 2 weeks during the middle of the summer. But
But even then, it wouldn't be. I mean, it'd be a little bit better, but with pitchers' injuries and stuff, you're still going to be limited on those guys that you could use.
no, agreed. It's never there's never going to be a perfect time. I will say I would much rather see it in a situation where pitchers are in midseason form than when they're in spring training form.
And that's fair. That's fair.
And then if you do it in November, you know you're going to have a lot of guys that have to shut down because essentially any big league pitcher should from the end of the season shut down until you know they pick back up. You know when they
Right.
go to whatever spring training site they have. You know that's for arm health. I think
Right.
that's shown that that's the best way to do it when you throw with that kind of intensity. But yeah, I mean, it's never going to be a perfect scenario. I don't know if anything will ever turn me off the All-Star game though, just because it means so much to me. Historically, the Midsummer Classic still means a lot. You know, I love the Derby. I love the idea of having the fan fest type situation. But yeah, it's by no means perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I think ideally, and I was talking about this with Nate when I was doing my old man grumpy rants. You know, I think ideally for baseball fans, you would want to see this game kind of treated like a real game, right? Like they used to in the 40s and 50s and 60s. And even, you know, I was looking it up. The year of the strike, 94, they had the All-Star game. Of course, the strike came after. Greg Maddux started that game and pitched 3 innings,
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. I mean, it wasn't like they still treated it like they still got a lot of people in and everything back then, not like they did, 50 years ago or whatever. Because 50 years ago, I was looking, there's like 4 or 5 people, 6 people that didn't make it in, they didn't use. And that's, because it being an all-star mattered more than playing in the game. It was like, oh, I'm an all-star. And then but the real people are going to play in this game. We talk about Stan Musial with a walk-off home run in the 13th inning. Well, that's because he played the whole game, and they treat it was more of it. And I think that's the kind of thing that baseball fans would be really intrigued by, a game that was played with all these guys at a high level. But I also understand that that's never going to happen. And you're there for the entertainment of it and to try to
Yeah.
draw in casual fans. And so I get that. But it does become frustrating when they use 13 pitchers in a 9-inning game. And when the box score all of a sudden has, placeholders in it because of weird stuff. Again, I like I like being able to compare things. I like being able to tie it to the history of baseball and you start seeing those shifts, you start to worry because you do. So, I was watching some of the Cats podcasts yesterday because it had Kyle Gibson and Matt Holliday and Lance Lynn, and yeah, they were like, put the swing off in today, put it in, and if we have the hockey style standings where you get a point for whatever, and I'm like, man, that's just not baseball to some degree.
Yeah.
I get that they're players, and I get they have a different perspective, and
Yeah.
they don't want to see 18 inning games, and they hated the extra, the zombie runner, which I get. In fact, I hate it too. I would rather them just play, extra innings. But man, I don't know. I kind of feel like at least with the zombie runner, you have to try to play baseball, and instead of just having a batting practice to win a ball game. And so
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, neither option to me is really good.
Sure. And I don't know if we'll ever get to that, but yeah, you're right. Cause the player portion of it is always entertaining. You know what I mean? To hear kind of what they say on those deals and how they're going to be proponents of it. And, in actuality, I don't know if it ever happens for the very same reason that you just said it's just too easy for these guys, essentially. You know what I mean? There's that it's and a lot of historical figures would say that about big league ball. We can put one over whenever we want. And I understand it's not as easy as that, but it's not far off. So I don't know. And I did think about that. I said, when is the conversation going to start that this is going to happen in a big league game? But I'm going to say we'll never see it, but I don't know.
The way baseball is shifting and changing, I don't rule it out. I don't think we see it soon, but could that be? I wouldn't rule that out being part of the CBA negotiations when we get a new, because that's what this was, right? This came out of the last CBA negotiation that this was put in as to solve the all-star problem of extra innings because they never hold a pitcher back anymore like they used to. And so, I would not at all because and the zombie runner kind of got codified a little bit in that too. I would not at all rule out this becoming an issue in 2027 or 2028 or whenever we come back from baseball after the next probably lockout strike. I don't, maybe it's doom and gloom, but I would not at all rule that out.
Yeah, that's it's crazy how it's changed a little bit, and there's part of me it's like, hey, I want to keep up with the times about what things are changing, and then you also want to be back like how far off are you willing to get?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we always like to say slippery slope stuff, but there is some of that of this game is it's different because it's different. Is it unrecognizable? I don't know about that. But this game is obviously very different, and we're seeing a lot of issues that it's okay. It's home run or nothing to some degree, right? We've talked about that. How batting averages are low, and they've done some things to try to bring back the stolen base and stuff like that. For a long time, it was boom or bust, and yet then we're going to go and make that the deciding factor in a game that goes 9 innings. So I don't know. If you want, and again, I think some of this stuff is in moderation, right? If you wanted to do that after the 12th inning or 13th inning or something, somewhere late,
And kind of
maybe.
that's where I thought it would go. You know what I mean? Kind of like the international
Yeah.
rules of the 12th on.
Yeah.
So it, yeah,
I mean, and maybe that does. But hard, but it's also where you should think to start the zombie runners, and they do it in the 10th inning. So,
yeah,
and I do think that once there's an exciting game that gets to, solved by that, it's like, okay, well, we'll move it up or we'll do this.
yeah,
And, we're never going to see it replace a game or anything like that. But still, I think there's, for anybody that likes free baseball, they, they're not going to have much of it if this comes into place, and we've seen less of it anyway. And I get it; the players don't want to be out there for 18 innings, but there's something about those kind of games, right? I mean, they don't happen very often. I mean, what most extra inning games were probably over in the 10th or 11th inning anyway. But those extra inning, you've watched enough of them. When it got into the 14th or 15th and things got weird, and there was some sort of buzz about that it was, even if it was two teams that were terrible, to watch a game that was going into the 15th or 16th inning it was kind of fun. And we don't get that anymore.
yeah, yeah. It none of the runner rules and stuff like that have never really bothered me. Not to say I like or dislike, the change didn't necessarily bother me from the beginning. I always kind of hated the late, but I mean the 15 plus inning games was few and far between,
Right,
essentially. You know
right.
what I mean? So that it wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah, any of the rules that have put into place so far have not really bothered me as much as it is. And I didn't really expect them to either, but yeah, I'm all about change, and I'm all about change in the way of increasing the fan base and catching up to what is going to get kids interested now. Um, I'm not so certain we're always perfect on how we do it, though.
Yeah. And you're definitely you're less grumpy and rigid than I am, for sure. I know that. I
Well,
do. And
there's there's a world that exists too of this is my life essentially, and
right, right.
these are things that I've done, and I don't mean it like that. I'm just like, bottom line, they're not afraid to lose you and I.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, they want to catch the 18s. They don't mind losing the 50s, and that's the middle ground with me. And I'm sure it's difficult for Major League Baseball as well. Of how are we going to ride this fence of keeping both happy?
And I'm sure somewhat. I don't know, like you said, if Major League Baseball gives much consideration to the older demographic.
True.
I just my part of what I would is, again, I like this. One of the great things about baseball, at least in my opinion, is that it was basically the same game when Babe Ruth played, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it was obviously integration and rule changes and things. I mean, there are differences, but we have ways to compare. And it's you have that through line of a guy that Babe Ruth to DiMaggio to Mantle to Reggie Jackson on the way through, if you were looking at the Yankees and Cardinals the same way, and everything like that. And what I don't want to see is the game start shifting enough to grab these 18-year-olds that it's not the same game.
Sure.
And I'm not saying that we're there yet, but I also think that, you know, if somebody gets grabbed in by an all-star game and then the next week goes to see a Major League Baseball game, they may be pretty disappointed, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not all that, and it's not supposed to be all that. So I guess that, part of me is, are we bringing young people in on false pretenses? Now, there's an argument to be made that you get them in the door and then they figure out that baseball's cool and they stick with it. And I think that's probably a lot to it, but I don't know. I feel like as the farther we get down, in 50 years, which I won't be around for anyway, it'll look significantly different and be very hard to compare to even what we're having today.
Yeah. 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 No, I understand. And that is, you just, what, and another angle to go on that is what is the sustainability of the 18s period?
Right.
And today with, you see it across the board. So that's one thing that has kind of concerned me too. Like, how much are we willing to change, and how much is this for sustainability? As long term eyeballs, not 1 week eyeballs.
Yeah, because baseball's not necessarily designed for the TikTok generation, right?
Yeah,
I
hundred
mean,
percent.
this is not a game where it's going to be done in 20 minutes, and I mean, there's a lot to this. And I'm not saying that a younger generation can't figure that out, but they also have to realize that it's different than probably anything else that they're dealing with right now. And that's like you said, then it becomes difficult to hold on to them. So I don't know, and maybe that'll change. Maybe there's still baseball's still doing fine, and I think that I don't want it to sound like it's collapsing or anything. It's not football, in terms of popularity, but it's still very very popular, very much making money for the most part. So it's not, and I understand it's got to look to its future,
Yeah,
but I just don't. I think again, the biggest thing about baseball, more than any of the other sports, I mean, other sports appreciate their past, but I think baseball is better about connecting with its past than anybody else is, and I
sure.
don't want them to lose that.
Yeah. No, I concur with that 100%, and I feel like that is the thin ice that we're walking on.
Yeah. So anyway, now that we've thoroughly, man, I just imagine I'm gonna turn 50 here soon. Imagine how bad I'll be after that. So the Cardinals are off. They're about to play tonight. They have not done a whole lot this week. They have sent down Thomas to JC, and it looks like Jordan Walker will be returning today. Is that the right move? I know that they kind of did some alterations with him at Springfield, and he'd struggled some there. But they either had to bring him up or option him. Is it right to bring him up?
I mean, yes, just mainly it's one of the situations where um, it, this is what's been this was the game plan all year.
Yeah,
To
yeah,
get him as many at bats as possible, and to see what they have. And I understand that some of the results aren't great. I mean, there's some development there, but going back to what we talked about, I mean, they're awfully young, and it's
hmm
tough to give up now. And I understand where your angle's coming from. Is it detrimental to bring him up? But at this point, I'm just going to say, one, if it's the JC slash Walker, I'm completely cool with the move, and I'm a JC fan. It's one of
hmm
those. I think that Walker needs to be up and play as much as possible. And I think that will be the long term benefit of Walker.
yeah. And I get that, and so JC had struggled some too, so it's not
Yeah,
too surprising either. I kind of wonder how much will Walker play. I mean, if and we heard Ollie one time say that they've gotten runway on everybody. They have an idea about everybody, which may not be completely true with Jordan Walker because he has been injured and things of that nature. But I also feel like, okay, this at least this couple weeks, Arizona, Colorado, San Diego, getting up leading up to the trade deadline, you've got to play your best team, right? And I don't know how that gets Jordan Walker on the field. Now, once they if the Cardinals decide they're going to sell at the trade deadline, then obviously there's plenty of time for Jordan Walker to play, in August and September. But for the next couple of weeks, I don't know that you can run him out there and bench somebody like Gorman or Burleson
yeah.
or
That's
something like that.
well. That's what I wondered. Are you? Is that? Are we? Is that with the impression that Gorman will play second, and Donovan playing left?
My guess would be that. I mean,
Burleson and right. I mean,
yeah,
that's what I was thinking. I don't know. I mean, I think that you have a little bit of flexibility. Now, Herrera's the one that throws the wrinkle into everything
hmm
if he doesn't catch.
yeah,
Because
and
then,
he's not
but
going to.
I think you can find adequate at bats for just about everybody, and and still, I mean, yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from on that
hmm
because right now the hot hand is still Donovan Gorman Burleson.
Right.
So he could be the odd man out, but I do think there's going to be enough at bats around to where it will be it's for the benefit of Walker for him to be up.
I will say, I guess so. I mean, we'll see. I mean, it also depends on, Arenado's now had,
Yeah,
basically a week to kind of recover. So I assume he'll be back at third base. If not, he'll wind up on the injured list. Um, so yeah, I don't know. And then we'll see if Pozo plays more than Paul Hayes behind the plate because he won't be able to DH now, because Herrera is back. I don't know. I'm going to be interested to see how they use Walker over the next few days, and what the results are, because out of all the guys that they've given some runway to,
Yeah.
um, he's really the only one that I can think of that hasn't really taken it. I mean, I don't want to say take it, but he's really shown he hasn't shown any improvement this year, at least numerically, than over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it concerns me. I hope that it does click ultimately, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. I'm excited for tonight and for the next couple weeks just to see what direction they go. Speaking of, I know you brought up Arenado, and I know that. Would you be completely blown out of the water if LA really did dip their toes in that water now?
Not completely. I'd be
Me,
surprised.
I agree with that. I don't know why I feel that way. Now, you would have asked me a couple weeks ago, I would have said I think Arenado probably finishes in St. Louis, at least the
Mhm.
contract anyway. Um, but now I'm starting to think, with Muncie still out and all those things, and I wouldn't say floundering, but they're in a spot that they haven't been in a while, even still being in first place with injury issues. I know they're looking at arms, but it wouldn't blow me away if that's where some of the playing time starts. Now, it would. I do, if you true sayer me, think that's the lineup that they put out tonight, tomorrow is probably going to be the lineup they put up for the majority of the season. You know what I mean? I'm just saying with the roster. I don't know how much flexibility there's going to be on
Right.
those things, but I do kind of wonder, and it's been in the back of my mind if LA with a need and LA with I think that there would maybe potentially some want from Arenado. I think that that's something that could happen,
It could. I mean, I don't disagree there at all.
and he would probably go there and catch fire.
Maybe so. Um, I don't know. I mean, it would be interesting. I do think LA has a pull on Arenado, being that's where he's from and everything, and he's always seemed to indicate that he would like to play there. But that's it. I mean, he seems to have really connected with his clubhouse this year, and I don't know how he would feel about leaving it in the middle of things. Now, he probably would. I don't disagree. I wonder a little bit. And then I don't know what LA gives for him. Um, Knowing that they have, Muncie coming back next year, or maybe I don't know if he'll come back at all this year, but and you've got Arenado on the hook for what, 3 more years, 2 more years. Um, I don't know I don't know what they think there. And what they would give up for him. Because I don't think they're at a spot now where they have to just take whatever a team will give them to get rid of Arenado. I mean, I think
Yeah,
they're able to hold out and ask for something. And granted, Dodger handoffs, casts off are probably much better than anything else that's in the system.
yes,
But
yeah,
um, I if Nolan Arenado gets traded, that's where it's going to. I just be very, very surprised if they did an Arenado trade at the deadline, especially when, in theory, they're not going to know but for 3 or 4 days beforehand whether they're buying or selling.
yeah. That's very true because I mean that would be it would probably be in the works right now for it to have to happen.
Which it could
The
be. I mean, I mean,
Yeah,
they easily could be working on things that they're getting the groundwork laid so that if they decide to sell, they can do something, they can
sure.
turn on a dime.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it leads back to it. I mean, I honestly, as a fan right now, and exceeding expectations for the most part, I thought they would be better than what we were being told. Just because I feel like opportunity is going, guys are gonna answer the bell a lot of times. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? One of those when opportunities given to them, and we've said forever that they may improve by subtraction a little bit, and we've kind of seen that happen to where we were hoping that some of the pitchers would stay around. We thought of Gibson maybe coming back. Well, we see now, I mean, he's pitched himself into retirement. And
Yeah.
I know that they've had their issues. We've spoken about this for the last 3 shows. But at this point, I'm fairly happy with the lineup as it is constructed right now. The lineup and the bench, and it goes from there. I think that we all see that the problem is in the rotation, which that was the gamble, to bring everybody back, or you had to do it because those were your innings and whatnot. Now, yeah, they're still going to be your innings potentially. They're not going very deep, but you're still going to have to get some. I want to see how that balances out the buy versus sell aspect of this, of just basically how they can't sell just because they have to get through the season.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, that is the draw, and that's why you know you could replace one of these guys in the rotation. You can't replace both of them because you
Yeah,
don't have that kind of backstop. In fact, I mean, the good thing is you're here in almost to August. So if things went really sideways, excuse me, you don't have that many innings to fill, right? I mean, it's not like somebody gets hurt in April and you're like, what do we do? Um, you've got McGreevy that you can put in the rotation. And unfortunately, Roby got hurt again.
yeah,
Quinn Matthews probably isn't quite ready, although he might get forced into it if there was a situation. But they don't really have a lot of Memphis to bring up. So yeah, I don't know what they would do in that situation. I don't know that they could even if Matz is still here after the trade deadline, I don't know if they could shift him into the rotation or not.
yeah. That's it's funny because I mean, week to week, you kind of start thinking, well, who's next in line, and I felt like it was Roby even as close as last week. But
Mhm.
injury issues are seem to be piling up day to day on the in the minor league system too. So I don't know. I mean, I'm intrigued by not necessarily the buy or sell aspect of it, but it is. I want to see what the long term vision of the team is to fill the innings out. And what I shouldn't say long term. I'm talking about the rest of the season, to where they're going to find the innings to fulfill the obligations that they feel like they're going to need. Because we think I will McGreevy get a start in the first week of the season, or first week of the second half? It doesn't look like it. So when are these moves going to kind of start to be made, and when is there going to be clarity about how they're going to fulfill the innings obligations?
Yeah, it really is a bit frustrating that you know John Mozeliak says, "Hey, McGreevy needs to start," but there's just no way to get him to start. Well, yeah, there is. I mean, you're the one that can do this, and it's very. I don't know. I don't know that it's surprising. It the fact that they're trying to showcase Fetty so they can trade him seems kind of crazy to me. I mean, maybe it'll happen, but it feels like to me anybody that has watched Eric Fetty this year is not going to be fooled if he throws a couple of good innings, good starts, and the odds of him throwing a couple of good starts are kind of small and to start with, especially when his next start's going to be in Colorado. So I don't know what we're doing there, because it's not helping us, not helping the team win, but it's also not helping develop the young guys like McGreevy. So I don't know. I mean, when do they cut? Is it as easy as saying as soon as they decide to sell, they're getting rid of Fetty?
I wonder. Like, I bring this up all the time. A few weeks ago, when you said this could be a DFA option, I was like, I just don't know if the Cardinals have it in them. But yeah, I could completely see it at this point. You know what I mean? Because that may be the route they have to go.
I mean, yeah, and I mean, again, it's cheaper and cheaper every day. So I mean, I don't know. I just don't think that. I mean, I get if you think if there's somebody interested in Fetty, more power to them. Trade him now. But
Yeah,
he's not. It's not helping the Cardinals in any form or fashion for him to be out there, unless they trade him. So again, now I get it. As soon as you trade him or let him go and you bring McGreevy up, yeah, somebody's probably going to get hurt, because it's amazing how the Cardinals have gone with their 5 starters all year long, right? With just McGreevy stepping in here and there, but nobody really being on the injured list. And that doesn't happen very often. So I get that there are probably some holding of their breath trying to determine when somebody's going to go down. But, if somebody goes down, even now, I mean, you still got Fetty in your rotation, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you're struggling, and yeah, okay, maybe it's if somebody gets hurt, that's just probably the end of the deal, right? And you're bringing up Zach Plesac to cover innings, even though he's terrible too. You know, you'll get through the innings. Somebody will pitch. It may not be pretty, but somebody will pitch. And I just don't know that you can, especially in this situation, if you're trying to make a push for a playoff. I don't know that you can gamble with that too much longer.
Yeah, yeah, that's another thing for a fan base that is that's waffling for your lack of playing in the big market. I mean, one thing, you can't make them look stupid either. You
Right.
know what I mean? That's one of those to where that probably requires a pretty significant explanation to why things are the way they are.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be so where I'm assuming that right now the Cardinals haven't made up their mind what they're going to do. What
I
do you
would,
think that
yeah. Go ahead, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Well, I was
No,
going to
no,
say
no, go ahead.
what do you think they should do? What do you think they will do? What do they need to do this week to find out? I mean, just what are your thoughts there?
Well, I would think that the year they brought in Lester, and they brought in the lefties just to
Mhm.
kind of curb an innings limit. I would think that would be similar to what they do now, to get guys that even veterans maybe on a +1 contract years wise. I could see those moves kind of being made where you don't necessarily have to trade off the big league roster unless it's a surplus, and the market may work for them this year to where it helps them clear up a little bit of the roster crunch that we've seen in recent years, and maybe move on from some guys that you see at this point now may not be in the long term plan, and they may play their hand on that one a little bit too much. But I don't know. Even I think that you're at this point now, even being within 3 games of a wild card spot, I just don't think it's one of those to where you're going to go all out and sell, because that's not that you don't have much to do. And if they sell some of the pieces that we want moved, I think they improve. It's some of those roster
Yeah.
pieces that no one's going to take. And then I honestly feel like they're going to operate by, hey, let's just get through the season, find innings out there that we can find, and let's see if we can just continue to be in this and maybe catch a hot streak. I would assume that's probably what it's going to be, and that's honestly that's kind of riding the fence between basically what they've
Yep.
always done.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I still wouldn't be surprised if they did nothing.
No.
Um,
Agreed. And it wouldn't surprise me if some of these moves are made after the deadline.
yeah. Yeah. Um, I do think, man, I still think I hate for them to not get maximum value out of somebody like Ryan Helsley. If there's and again, we don't know if people are asking for him, although you would think at the deadline there probably were. But I don't know that they're going to offer him a qualifying offer of whatever the qualifying offers are for this coming year, which 22, 23, 25 million dollars. I don't know that they'll do that. I mean, if they do, he might take it. Which I mean, I guess you get Ryan Helsley for next year. But I think we've seen, there's that's that's not a bad thing, but it's not the great thing that it was last year or even a couple years ago. Um, and if he doesn't take it, I guess you get the qualifying offer, and you get the draft pick. But I'd hate for them to not maximize that, even just because they want to pretend like they've got a chance this year. Which I mean, again, that's overstating it, but still, um, I'd like to see that happen. But we've been talking about that for a year now, and they've not seemed to be indicating that they want to do that. So I don't know. I guess again, this is John Mozeliak's last go round, and we saw how the draft looked different in part because of the new people involved, in part probably because Gary Lowick wasn't. But will we see a different trade deadline because Chaim Bloom is in the room when they're having these discussions?
Yeah. Yeah, I would think it has to be, right?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, again, if you're trading for this year's team and you're not trading off pieces that are long term pieces, I mean, yeah, Bloom's in the room, but how much say if you're not trading a Herrera for something, how much say does he have if you're trading, you know, Eric Fetty or Miles Michaelis or or even Ryan Helsley? How much say does Chaim Bloom have on that deal? I mean, he probably gives his opinion on some of the things that come back, but I don't know that he gets to say yay or nay on it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess I have been, um, head in the clouds type situation, thinking that this was copacetic all year, and that it was working as a team. I may be
Yeah,
completely wrong on that.
I don't know about that, but I just like when Mo at Blogger Day this year, he kind of said something to the effect of things for this team are my group, things for the future are Heim's group.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think the trade deadline, if they were selling, you know, maybe Heim is in there talking about the pieces, but if for some reason they wanted to trade Nolan Gorman or something like that, I think he would have a say in that matter because that's an asset that could be here for him next year. But I think when it comes down to it, Mo gets the final say this year on whatever the trade is, and that may mean that we're seeing a lot of the same stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I don't feel like this is going to be that dissimilar from what we're used to. And I understand it's hey, we're going to see how we play before we make a decision. And it's one of those. I don't know if that's necessarily true, just in the fact that um, they don't deviate much from a plan ever, really.
Yeah, that is true. That is not something they like to do at all. Um, so I don't know. Is there a guy if you were trading off the major league roster, not the the kind of the obvious ones? Um, is there somebody that it makes sense to at least consider for the right price right now? Because there are log jams. We got we've talked about where you're having to send the JC down, and where does Gorman and Donovan play because then you can't play Walker, and then JJ Weatherholt is going to not necessarily be here this year, but he's going to be in the mix starting in
Yeah,
spring training next year. So is there a spot where you consider trading somebody off the major league roster that frees up, or you trade somebody with, you traded Gorman who has a couple years of control left, for a young pitcher that has a couple years control left. I mean, that kind of thing. Is there somebody that you would trade in those situations?
I don't know because I'm so hot and cold on those moves. Because if you'd have asked me in the
Mhm.
offseason, I'd have been like, let's move Gorman immediately, and probably would have sold low on it. But now I'm like, okay, look what patience has kind of done, and I feel like you can benefit from the patience of some of these younger guys as well.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm riding the fence as much as the front office is really.
I mean, that's because they put them in that situation. You're right. I mean, you don't want to sell low on a guy like Gorman because you're not going to get anything for him. But when he builds his value up, then you're like, well, why should we trade him? Because he can help us. And I don't know. I don't, I get that I think you would have to be a decent return. Now, I think if you could
Yeah.
get a young pitcher you liked that had a couple more years of control, you might do that deal at the trade deadline. Now, I don't know how you do unless unless the Dodgers have a spare somewhere laying around. Most of the teams that are in contention are not going to have that kind of pitcher, so you probably not have to worry about it. But not to spare at least. But if you could do that, because we've already talked about what that rotation looks like for next year, that has some holes, that has some opportunities for people like that. and it would help cover the innings that we've talked about, if you need them for this year. But I don't know. I mean, I think a Lars Nootbaar is a guy that isn't at the bottom of his level, but might be as somebody that you free up that outfield spot by moving.
Sure. Well, and that's the hot button right now, correct? You know what I mean? It's kind of run its course. Maybe it's time to move on.
I mean, maybe it's hard to tell. Of course, he's hurt now, and he's been dealing with injuries, which is, of course, Lars Nootbaar. But we saw some really good stuff out of Lars Nootbaar. But we've also seen it not overall maybe not be the package that we thought it was going to be.
Sure. Yeah. It just never seems to put it together, which we've said that a lot about the Cardinals the last eight or so years.
Yeah, and whether the new development people are going to change some of that is still up for debate, I guess. Let me see if I can see Newt. I mean, Newt's tied for the team lead in home runs with 12 with Wilson Contreras. 12 seems awful low, but it is still the team high, so we'll take it. But his OPS is 713. He's hitting 227. Obviously the walks pushes on base up, but it's still just 330, which is not bad. But I mean, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you would, if you did trade him, again, where do people see his value? And I think that's what we don't know, right? Is if nobody thinks he's good, then don't trade him because it doesn't do you any good, and you can wait and see if he improves. But they're gonna have to. It feels like they're gonna have to do something because that, with Weatherholt coming up, and assuming Arenado sticks around, that middle infield gets really, really crowded really, really quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we've heard about Weatherholt maybe taking outfield, and we've talked about Herrera taking some outfield spots. Then that makes the outfield crowded.
Yeah. Well, agreed. And then in that, there's potential that Sajacy starts taking more balls in the outfield.
Yeah.
And it's one of those to where we've talked about this a lot too. You get a little too cute in some situations, and that's concerning.
Yeah, and again, the trade deadline may be kind of mediocre, and then Chaim Bloom may clean house a little bit this offseason, right? And he may say, "Look, I don't believe in Jordan Walker, and I'm going to trade him, even though it's not going to bring much back." Or I don't believe, I like what Nolan Gorman does, but he can bring us back X amount, so we're going to trade him. Who knows? I mean, it very well may be that this winter is more active than the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think that's it's very. I imagine the Cardinals would rather be. I don't know. The Cardinals might rather be 5 games under 500 and know what they're doing versus this kind of. We're kind of good, but kind of not because everybody, we're not really going to make it to October unless something really good happens. But we're also ahead of over 500, so we don't want to just trash everything. So, it is an awkward position to be in.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, better than we expected, but still not so different from the previous 2 or 3 years.
Yep. And to wrap it up, I guess we also had the draft this week. You and I and David got a chance to talk about Liam Doyle on last week's show. How over the rest of the draft, how did you think the Cardinals did?
I felt like they walked away with a pretty good draft. I thought that Doyle turned out to be a steal. I mean, so to speak. We haven't seen him pitch yet, but I think they got some needs. I feel like they've got some talent. It's tough to say now, but it just feels like an overall direction change. Will you ever truth serum Flores and be like, "Hey, this is the draft. This is the draft that really got us moving and got some things changing." You know what I mean? Or does he kind of operate the same every year?
I would say that there was definitely something different about this year. I think Kyle kind of indicated, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, which he probably will, but he kind of indicated that it was really a lot of the same approach, just that the scouting director or the farm director has changed, and so they were able to maybe take some players that they normally would have taken but weren't allowed to in the past.
Yeah.
And that's very possible. And they do have, Rob Cervolio was involved in this and some of the others. And so there are new voices in the room. But when you look at all the arms that they took that can strike out batters, I mean, at a high clip, like 11, 12 per 9 or more, I think that's definitely a change from the traditional Cardinal pitcher that throws in the mid 90s with, a little bit of some sort of off speed pitch that, gets good results, but isn't necessarily a strikeout pitcher. I think, that adding that swing and miss into the system is going to be huge for the change as we start to turn the ship around a little bit, and get away from maybe some of the Dakota Hudsons and even the Michael McGreevy's, because McGreevy is good, but he's also not a big strikeout guy.
Sure.
And get into, an era with, Liam Doyle and others like that may have a lot more of that strikeout stuff in them.
Sure. Yeah. And that was interesting to see, you know what I mean? And and I honestly, it seems like they're way behind on that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Because that's, honestly, that's what wins in the playoffs. And that was never really that, the hopes and dreams of how it was going to go.
Yeah, I mean, the last strikeout guy that's come through the system is probably Helsley, and they turned him into a reliever.
Yeah.
I can't think of anybody else that's really had a lot of that. I mean, I think.
You think about it. I mean, Hicks was setting records about how hard he threw, but never struck anybody out.
No. Yeah. That was always made no sense to me that you can throw 100, 103, 104, and they're just fouling it back, because you're throwing a 300, 304, but it's not in the zone.
Exactly. That's shows how good big league hitters are and how much you have to adjust, even if you have a cannon.
Yep. So anyway, Cardinals have a big road trip this week. I mean, Arizona, Colorado. You feel like Colorado shouldn't be a problem, but it's also in Coors Field. I mean, I think I said on Talking About Birds, you got to go at least 4 of 6 in this, right, and probably 5 of 6 to really then come in to come in and face San Diego in St. Louis, which is probably your closest competitor for that last wild card spot. So, if they just split this road trip, I think they're in trouble.
Yeah, and that concerns me because they historically don't play well in Colorado. Mm-hmm. It is I'm the optimistic side of me says that they probably come out and play pretty well. The thinking back of what I've seen in Colorado before is concerning.
Yeah. Well, and Arizona's been not necessarily the greatest place.
That's true. Either, That's true.
And I mean, you've got Palante seems to have come around a little bit, and then you get Gray, and then you've got Michaelis, which, I mean, the last time we saw Michaelis, he looked pretty good.
Yeah.
If there are adjustments that he's made, then hopefully that works. And Arizona's got its own problems. So, I mean, I feel like 4 of 6 is manageable, and maybe more. But you're right. I don't know that I would lay any money on it because it's a West Coast trip. No matter who you're going to is always kind of iffy.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll talk about that trip when we're back again next week. And until then, I've got a little bit from Remembers after this. So I've been missing he sent me a couple. I've not put them on here in a bit. So we're going to catch up. I'm glad that Rich is doing that for us. It's always fun. Yeah. But anyway, until next week, for Alan, I'm Daniel. Good night.
Good night.
0-1 to Pujols. In the air, left field, and Pujols has given St. Louis the lead. A dramatic, towering 3-run home run. Stunned in disbelief here in Houston.
Hi, everyone. Rich Bray here with a look back at how Red Shandies predicted his game-winning home run in the 1950 All-Star Game. The Cardinals' second baseman wasn't known for his power. He had just 14 career home runs at the time. But as he shagged fly balls in the Comiskey Field outfield alongside his National League All-Star teammates, something came over him. I'm going to hit one right up there in the upper deck, he told his National League teammates, including Duke Snider, Walker Cooper, and Dick Sisler. In his autobiography, Shane Dienst wrote, "I don't know why I said that. It just came out. I wasn't a home run hitter, and the last thing I should be trying to do in an all-star game is hit a home run." Shane Dienst and Sisler even bet a Coca-Cola on who would get the longest hit, a bet Shane Dienst was sure he had lost when Sisler singled in the 6th inning. Shane Dienst opened the game on the bench, watching as Stan Musial, Eno Slaughter, and Marty Marion represented the Cardinals in the starting lineup. After Ralph Kiner homered for the National League to tie the score 3-3 in the top of the 9th, the game went into extra innings for the first time in All-Star history. With the score still deadlocked at 3 in the top of the 14th inning, manager Bert Schotten inserted Shane Dienst in place of Slaughter. Walker Cooper turned to him and asked, "You going to hit it in the right field stands?" "No," Shane Dienst said. "Left field now." Incredibly, he did just that, launching a home run off Tigers left-hander Ted Gray over the left field wall. I don't know if the guys on the bench were as shocked as I was, but they didn't have to make it around the bases without falling down laughing, Shane Dienst wrote. "When I did make it back to the dugout, the guys let me have it." After the game, Gray said the pitch was a low fast one. Shane Dienst described it differently. "I guess it was a double knuckleball. The pitch didn't have much to it because I pulled it." Shane Dienst, who was elected to the Hall of Fame in 1989, played in 10 All-Star games in his 19-year career. But that 14th inning blast in 1950 was the only All-Star game home run of his career. For more Cardinals history, visit stlredbirds.com or follow me on Twitter at Remembirds, REMEMBIRDS.
I was just going to ask you, Jason, was this going to be the Ohtani rule right here? Where we're going to see King Albert hit a bomb and then come in and throw a scoreless inning?
Down the left field line, it is gone.
A bomb!
Good call right there.
How about it?
Kidding me in this ballpark?
Number 31.
Wow.
He was so done with the 0 for 5 last night that he was like, let me get a rip.
That is old Albert right there. That is just hit on the button. And like we've been saying all day, you just can't throw the ball down the middle at this level.
I wonder how many of his 31 home runs he's hit here hit that rotunda. A bunch of them.